Hi everyone, welcome you all to this video on the Python series by Simplilearn. In today's video, we will learn about strings in Python. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe to the Simplilearn channel to learn interesting tech videos. Let's have a look at the agenda for today. So we'll understand what is a string in Python and how to create strings in Python. Then we'll look at the different string methods and how to perform string indexing, and all these we'll see with the help of hands-on demonstrations on the Jupyter Notebook. So let's understand what is a string. So a string in Python is an object that represents a sequence of characters. In Python, we have str as the data type of string. Now you can create strings using single quotes or double quotes. So here is an example where we have used a single quote to write a string. So our string is Hello India, which is inside a single quote. Below, if you see, we have the same string written within double quotes. So these are the two methods in which you can create strings in Python. Now you can also use triple quotes, which are generally for multi-line strings or doc strings. So here is an example. We have a string called str3, and the content it has is human psychology is an interesting subject. Now if you print the string, it will be printed in two lines and not in a single line. Now we'll be exploring much more in detail in our demo session, so please wait for a while. Next, we have string indexing. So if you want to extract a few characters from your string, you can use the indexing method. So in Python, a string starts with the index number 0. So here we have a string which is healthy, and the first element is present at the 0th index. So at the bottom you see the forward index, on the top we have the reverse index or the negative indexes. So in Python, as I said, the first index is at the 0th position, so H is at 0, E is at the first index, A is at the second index, so on and so forth. Now similarly, if you look at negative indexing, it starts with -1 in reverse order. So we have -1 for Y, -2 for H, -3 for T, and so on and so forth. Now let's head over to our Jupyter Notebook where we'll learn about strings in Python in detail. Okay, so I'm on my Jupyter Notebook. First, I'll create a new notebook. I'll click on New and then select Python 3. Okay, so here let me rename my notebook as Strings in Python Demo. I'll click on Rename. Okay, now let's start with our first example. I'll create a variable called str1 that will have a string. You can see here I am using single quotes now. I'll write Hi Sam. So here str1 is holding a string called Hi Sam, and let's go ahead and print the string str1. I'll hit Shift Enter to run it. You see here I have my string printed Hi Sam. Now if you want to check the data type that str1 holds, you can use the type function, and inside the type function I'll pass in my variable str1. If I run it, you see here it gives us str, which means it is of type string. Now let's create another string str2 using double quotes this time. So I'll write, let's say, Hello Angela. I can give exclamation mark. Okay, now let's just print the second string. You see here this is my second string, which is Hello Angela. If you want, you can also use the print function here and run it. You get Hello Angela. Now let's write a multi-line string using triple quotes. So I'll write str3 equal to, I'll use triple quotes, and then I'll say hi everyone. Go to the next line. I'll write today we will learn about, I'll go to the next line and I'll write strings in Python. Then I'll again give triple quotes to close my string, and let's just print this str3. If I run it, you can see it here. I have now written a multi-line string. Hi everyone, today we will learn about strings in Python. Let me just add a S. There you go. Okay. Now coming to the next topic, we'll learn about indexing. Alright. Let me declare a string str1 which has value as Simplilearn. Now to use indexing and extract certain items in a string or values in a string, you can use square brackets, and inside the square brackets you can give the index position. For example, if I write str1 and in the square bracket I'll give, let's say, I want to find the element or the value present at the 0th index. Let's run it. It gives me S, because as we learnt in the slides, the first index in a string starts with the 0th number. So I have S in my 0th index, so hence it has printed S. Let's explore a few more. If I write str1 of, let's say I want to know what is present at the 3rd index. If I run it, it gives me P. You can check now. So S is at the 0th index, I is at the 1st index, M is at the 2nd index, and P is at the 3rd index. Let's say I'll write str1 of, let's say 12. We can see the difference now. It gives us an error. It says string index out of range. The reason being, Simplilearn does not have any value at the 12th index. So it's printing an error saying string index out of range. Now let's change this to 6 and see what we have. At the 6th index we have L. If you count here, S is at the 0th index, I is at the 1st index, M is at the 2nd index, P is at the 3rd index. The first L is at the 4th index, again I is at the 5th index, and then we have the second L at the 6th index. So we have L printed here. Now let's see how to use the slicing operator using colon. I'll write slicing operator. Okay. I'll use the same string str1. Let me print it once again. We have Simplilearn. Suppose I write str1 within brackets. I'll use the slicing technique now. I want everything starting from the 0th index. I get Simplilearn. So here I am printing everything that starts with the 0th index. Next, let's see what we have if I print my string str1 and write 1:6. I'll run it. It gives me impli. So if you notice here, I want to extract whatever is present from the 1st index till the 6th index, but excluding the 6th index. So in Python, the indexing method or the slicing method will exclude the last index. So here if you see, I is at the 1st index, M is at the 2nd index, P is at the 3rd index, L is at the 4th index, and then we have I at the 5th index, and we have excluded the 6th index, that is the second L. So hence it has returned us impli. Now similarly, let's say we'll see another example. I'll write str1. This time I'll use colon 6. If I run it, you get simply. So it has printed everything starting from the 0th index till the 6th index, but excluding the 6th index. So you have all these values from 0th index till the 5th index. Okay. Now you can also reverse a string. For that you can use negative slicing using 2 colons. If I write print str1 and within square brackets I'll give colon colon -1. Let's run and see the result. There you go. If you see this, it has printed my original string, which is Simplilearn, in reverse order now. So this is a very simple method. If someone asks you to reverse a string or print something in reverse order, you can use the negative slicing method. Now let's explore a few more examples. If I write str1 and within brackets I'll give -1 and run it, it returns me n, because in my original string, if I go on the top, I have n at the last index, which is here -1. Similarly, let's see what we have at -3. We have a here. If I go to the top, you see here n is at -1, r is at -2, and a is at -3, and hence it has given us a. Now let's say I'll write str1. I want to print -2 colon, and let's see the result. It has given us r and n. So here we are printing only the last two elements in the string, hence we have used -2. Okay. Now Python does not allow you to reassign values in a declared string. Let me show you what I mean. I'll give a comment here. Reassign strings. Suppose I have the same string str1, which is Simplilearn. Say I write str, and I want to replace the value present at the third index with, let's say, O. And if I were to print str1 now, Python will throw an error saying str object does not support item assignment. So it is immutable, like tuples, where you cannot reassign any values. You can also delete a string. Say I have another string called str2, which has a value of, let's say, Python programming. You can use the del keyword and write str2, and now let's print str2. You will see that it says name str2 is not defined because we have already deleted str2 in the above step. Okay. Now let's go ahead and see some of the important string operations. Okay. Say I have str1 which has Python. Now one thing to note, I am using either single quote or double quote. You can use whatever you want. Let's say I have another string which has programming. So these are my two strings. Let's perform a few operations on these strings. Say I write str1 multiplied by 3, and I'll run it. You can see here it has printed Python thrice because I have said str1 multiplied by 3. So in str1 we have Python, and multiplying 3 returns Python 3 times. Now let's say I'll write str1 plus str1. It has merged Python twice, so I have Python and Python repeated. Let's say I write str1 plus str2. We'll see the result. It gives us Python programming. So basically, if you use the plus operator with two strings, Python will perform a concatenation operation, which means it will merge both the strings. Now if you want to find if a specific character is present in a string or not, you can use the in operator for this. Let's say I'll print whether W is present in str1. If I run it, it gives us false because in str1 we have Python, and if you see here we don't have the letter W in Python, and hence it has given us false. Now let me copy this. I'll paste it here. Let's try whether O is there in string1 or not. It gives us true because we have an O here. You can see here we have an O. Similarly, let's say I want to find whether LA is there in string 2 or not. If I run it, it gives us false because in string 2 we have programming and we don't have any LA present in programming. Let's say we'll see whether RO is present in string 2 or not. This time it returns us true because if you see here we have RO in programming and hence it has given us true. Now you can also print a raw string using the R alphabet. So the way to write is I'll write R, give a single quote. Let's say I'll give a location C drive 2/ and let's say I'll write Python 3.7 and run it. It gives me a raw string. Now let's see some formatting methods. I'll write a comment saying format methods. Okay. I'll write a print statement. I'll give double quotes, and here let's see the first example where I'm using curly braces. I'll write and I'll give another curly braces. You'll get to know what I'm doing once I finish this. Let's say I have a message, both are best friends. Then I'm going to use my format method, and inside this I'll pass in my two values for these braces. So these curly braces will be replaced by the words that I pass in, or the values that I pass in within the format method. So here I'll write, let's say James, and my second person would be Brad. Now let me run it. You see here what Python does is it replaces the curly braces with the names that I have passed within the format method. So it takes the first argument for the first curly brace and the second argument for the second curly brace. So my statement becomes James and Brad both are best friends. Now let me just copy this. I'll show you another example. This time I'll give 1 and 0 inside the curly braces. Now if I run this, there you go. So here James is at the 0th index. So this is basically a list where James is at the 0th index and Brad is at the first index. So if I write 1 and 0, it will take Brad here, and then for 0 it will take James. So now my message becomes Brad and James both are best friends. Now let's try out another example. I'll paste it here. I'll use two variables, let's say A and B, and inside my format method I'll write A equal to James and I'll assign B as Brad. Let's run it. There you go. We have our message printed. James and Brad both are best friends. So here A refers to James and B refers to Brad. Cool. Let's explore another example. I have a variable called name and that has a value Angela, and then I have another variable, let's say salary of $100,000. I'll use a print statement. I'll print a message. Her name is, I'll use %s for string, give a \n for next line, and I'll write her salary is, then I'll write %d, this is for numbers, and then I'll give another percentage, and let's say I'll write my two variables, name and salary. Let's see what we have in the result. I need to close my double quotes here. I'll exclude it from here. Let's run it. There you go. So I have my message here. Her name is Angela. Her salary is $100,000. I'll just delete the space here. We'll run it again. Okay. Now this percentage S refers to the name, and we have declared her name is Angela. So my first statement or the message becomes her name is Angela, and the next message is her salary is percentage D. So percentage D here refers to the salary where we have 100,000. So the next message is her salary is 100,000. So these are the very basic and important print methods or formats that you can use while working with strings. Now we'll explore a few functions that are readily available in Python to operate with strings. I'll take my same string str1 as Simplilearn, and then I'll create another variable called str2. I'll write str1 dot. I'm going to use the capitalize method. Okay. Let me make one correction. I'm going to write everything in lowercase so that we can see the difference, how we can capitalize the string. So I'll write my print statement, print old value. This is going to my message. I'll give a colon followed by my double quotes, and I'll pass in my variable str1. Okay. Now I'll copy this. In the next line we have a new value as str2. Let's run it and see the difference. There you go. So here my old value has Simplilearn in all lowercase, but when I used the capitalize method, so Python has converted my first letter in Simplilearn to uppercase or capital keys. Cool. Now let me copy this. I'm going to use the same example for the next three methods. Let me show you how the case fold method works. This time I'm going to pass my input string in all uppercase. I'll write Simplilearn in uppercase, and instead of capitalize I'll write case fold. Let's run it and see the difference. There you go. Initially we had Simplilearn in uppercase, and now we have converted into case fold, so all the letters are in lowercase. Now moving ahead, you can also use the upper method to convert a string into uppercase. Let's say I have a string where few of the letters are in uppercase and few of the letters are in lowercase. This time I'm going to convert everything into uppercase, so I'll use the upper function instead of case fold. Let's run and see the result. There you go. So this time Python has converted my original string into uppercase. And likewise you can also use the lowercase. Instead of upper, if I write lower, you see here everything has been converted to lowercase. Cool. Okay. Now I'll show you how the title method works. So in title method, all the words, basically the first letter of all the words will be in uppercase. So suppose I have a string which is Simplilearn company. So I'll write, let's say this is my string, and I'll convert my str1 to title case. Let me run it. So this is the difference you can see. The first letter of the first word is uppercase. Again, the first letter of the second word is also in uppercase. So this is how the title case works. Now you can also count the occurrences of a particular element in a string. Suppose I have string 1 that has Python programming. In str2 I'll write str1 dot and use the count function to count how many times, let's say n, the letter n is present. Then I'll print saying occurrences, give a colon here, and then I'll pass in my variable, that is str2. So this will count the number of times n is present in my original string. So if you see here, in Python programming we have n present twice. Similarly, let's check for G. The letter G is also present twice. Let's see for Y. Now Y is present only once, which you can see here. Okay. Next, let's see how the replace function works in Python. I'm giving a comment as replace. So let's say I have a string str1 which has Hamburg is located in France. So Hamburg is a city which is actually located in Germany and not in France. So using the replace method, we are going to replace France with Germany. So what I'll do is I'll create another string str2 equal to, I'll write str1 dot and then I'll use the replace function and I'll say replace my string France with country Germany, and then we'll print str2 and see the result. There you go. So we have changed Hamburg is located in France to Hamburg is located in Germany. Now coming to the final method that we are going to explore in this Python strings demo, which is using the split function. Okay, so you can split the values or each word in a string as separate words and store it in the form of a list. So I write str1, I'll just copy this, I'll paste it here, and I'll change France to Germany because Hamburg is actually present in Germany and not in France. And then I'll create another variable called str2. I'll write str1 dot and then use the split function. Now let me print both the strings. First I'll print str1 and then I'll print str2. If I run it, you see my original string was Hamburg is located in Germany, and then using the split function we have segregated or divided each of the words present in the original string into separate words, and this time it is present in the form of a list. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this video tutorial on strings in Python. I hope it was useful and informative. Thank you for watching and keep learning.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.